assignment.
Pioneers awaiting orders.
Enemy down! Yeah?
Pioneers here. Let's go, pioneers.
Production upgrade accomplished. Our bunker can now accommodate an MG-42. What are your orders?
Move out, pioneers.
Water spot under attack! The bunker has been approved with an MG-42. The mortar team has been killed.
Move your feet, pioneers. Pioneers on mortar duty. Pioneer squad.
Taking on
Of Dolk Aktionen.
mortar element! Yeah? Awaiting fire mission. We have lost the Granatwerfer squad. Mortar team separate! The mortar team has been killed. Manufacturing capability has been increased. We have lost an MG team.
Pioneers, on our way. Let's move it.
now be called in to rally our forces increase.
You found something?
New units are ready to deploy. We are now authorized to request more powerful units. Yeah? Standing by! All pencil! The enemy is attacking one of our forward buildings.
Truppen here. Listen up.
here. We will build you a...
Enemy has killed a machine gun crew. Standing by. Ready.
Pioneers have finished!
Archer awaiting orders. Yeah? We have a forward structure under attack. Be promoted! Railway artillery at the ready. The mortar team has been killed. Artillery primed and loaded. Heavy panzer here. 25 points remaining.
go, pioneers. We're moving. Depend on us, we will capture it. That is unclaimed territory. We shall change that.
New units are ready to deploy. MG42 team is... We have new units.
Machine gun squad.
We have a mortar team available for deployment.
Yeah, we'll try to take...
New units are ready to deploy.
Moving to enemy territory. You need fire support?
I will rush them.
Squad on the move.
Fire mission. They are moving.
Pioneers ready for anything. Cover and run! Cover and run!
Stand your ground!
Infantry to die! Move it! All the Soviet people! These dogs do not give up! You want something?
We will relocate.
MG element ready.
Stand hard!
Changing scenery.
Infantry assault!
Officers are now available for transfer to the front. An infantry squad has been killed.
I suppose you need cannon fodder.
Our forces increase.
MG
Scheiße! Pull back! Fire! Wehrergruppen! Move! They're tanking!
New units are ready to deploy.
On our way!
Ready.
Moving out!
Get moving!
Germans will like to move.
Fire leaving!
The flanks! Incoming fire!
MG support standing by! Aim ahead!
Hold the line, you pussies!
Move out!
A squad of pioneers has arrived.
This is best of shit!
What's the right flank? The right!
We can't stay here! Listen up. We have rules to obey. We have to take notice. Contact infantry! With a baiting port, we have to secure that location. Elsewhere. The enemies are thinking I'm hit! Let's take that location. Then it clicks the man
A new unit has arrived.
Villiger here!
What are your orders? Losing men
New
here!
units are ready to deploy.
Don't let them get close!
Retreat! Those dogs steal my boots. Fall back! Fall back! Fuck! We have it. We're on the move.
Hilfswilliger. Our opponents are seizing a sector.
We are done when they are dead. One last drop of blood.
Pioneer squad! Move out, pioneers!
Infantry can now construct trenches to reinforce positions.
Machine gun squad.
We are losing a sector.
Time for a change of scenery.
Officer on the field.
Enemy contact!
Moving out. Ready. Firing on enemy troops. Moving. Fire! We're on the move. Just find them coming out of the right. On our way.
Officers can now be called in to rally our troops.
Open ready.
You need something built? Or blown up? We have construction work to do.
upgraded. Medium armor and rocket artillery is now available.
Go! Forward, man! Move! Schnell! Incoming fire!
Half-track has arrived.
We need to displace! They must not show mercy! I suppose you need cannons! Yes! Move out there! Marines are attacking!
Officer has joined our forces. The HQ has been improved again. Time to unleash our heavy tanks. Half-track ready!
Something? On our way. We will build you a Kriegswerk.
We are under attack! Gasetreiber! Ready. You could come.
We're needed elsewhere.
Yeah, ready!
We are moving. Confirmed.
Listen up. We have moved. We're moving! Half-track is under fire! We are leaving! We are suffering losses. We are ready! We have casualties. Standing by! Gasetreiber! Awaiting orders! We are losing Soldaten.
Incoming fire! We need help! Get the fuck out of here! Go! Help me! I'm hit!
Yeah, we're moving!
They're cameras to emulate that portrait effect. Google uses advanced depth mapping technology to trace out the subject and isolate the background, and it works really well, especially in low light. The front-facing camera amazing. The lack of a headphone jack is a deal breaker to me personally, but it's what it is. I guess you can just squeeze the phone to activate Google Assistant, and if you have smart devices connected to your place, you can control it seamlessly with just a few steps, and that's amazing. It's a lot superior than Bixby, that's for sure. And the last thing that I have to talk about is the camera. It's the best in the business. The results really do speak for themselves, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that in the comments. What really surprised me was the portrait mode on the sensor. Google does a fantastic job just analyzing the edges around the subject, and it isolates the background. There are no weird artifacts whatsoever. I mean, it's a hit or miss sometimes depending on harsh conditions, but most of the time you're really gonna get an awesome image when you decide to use the portrait mode. If you're hardcore into mobile photography, the Pixel 2 is certainly for you. And finally, let's talk about pricing, because at $650, this is an expensive smartphone, especially when compared to the OnePlus 5T that retails for $500. But when you put this up against the Galaxy Note 8, that's $1,000, or the Galaxy S8 Plus, that's even a lot more expensive than the Pixel 2. What really makes this smartphone shine over the rest of the competition is the camera, battery life, the software experience. You're the first in line to receive updates, so you don't have to worry about that in the long run. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Google Pixel 2. What do you guys think about this device? Would you consider this over something like the Pixel XL or even the OnePlus 5T? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm Ibra with Hurricane X. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more similar content, and we'll see you in the next one.
This is the Pixel 2 XL, and it's been on the market now for a month, and I've had mine for around about 4 weeks. But there's been so much press around this thing. Some has been very positive, some has been not quite so positive at all. So where does this leave us? Well, rather than do a review after around about a week or so, I really wanted to use this as my daily driver for a long period of time. And now that I've done that, does this thing really stack up with the best? And is it a smartphone you should be buying? Well, that will all be answered here. The Pixel 2 then. It's a 6-inch smartphone that uses the 18:9 aspect ratio for a sleek, modern looking design. The bezels are definitely slim, but they're not as slim as something like the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. And that phone just has an overall fit and finish that I think does look and feel a lot better than the Pixel 2 XL. But having said that, there's definitely a big positive to the Pixel's design, and that's the fact that you get dual stereo speakers on the phone itself, as opposed to having that one lonely speaker that you get at the bottom of the S8. So I think it's the screen that's obviously going to be the main talking point for most people. And there's been 3 things really that have been pointed out about the device. And only really, I'd say 1.5 of them, to me anyway, have been an issue. The one that hasn't really cropped up for me, and I have tried looking for it, is screen burn-in. That's not to say it's never going to happen, because it's an OLED panel and this sort of thing, while it can be avoided a little bit, I don't think it can be avoided entirely. But there is definitely a blue colour shift to the screen, there's no way around that. I will say that it definitely seems to me to be a lot worse when the device is first turned on from cold, but actually after having used it for a few weeks, it isn't really something I ever notice at all, but it definitely is there, and it's definitely something that rivals from the likes of Samsung, and of course the iPhone 10 don't really seem to suffer from this at all, and thus they have a better screen as a result. The other thing, and the issue that's sort of half an issue, is to do with the screen saturation and just the way the screen looks. Out of the box it definitely does look a bit flat. Once again, no way around that. But Google have now patched a extra saturation mode that boosts the colours to the point where actually it really is to my liking, because it's a lot better than it was before, but it's not quite so saturated as Samsung's. But the main thing really is that it's kind of a non-issue in some ways, because it's all about colour gamut and colour space. And while this probably doesn't sound that interesting, essentially what you need to know is that a lot of phones don't actually display P3 properly. They just boost everything up and sort of hope for the best. Whereas what Google were trying to do is use the new version of Android Oreo to properly display native P3 applications on the display properly, giving you a more true-to-life look while still having better saturation levels. But unfortunately what's happened is that most applications don't support P3, which is what made everything sort of look a little bit flat. So this problem will improve over time, but at the moment it's definitely the Google phone that is suffering unless you do activate that saturation mode that sort of brings it more back to normal levels. But basically watch this space, no pun intended. The back of the device uses a two-tone finish that is classic Pixel. You've got glass for the top third and then aluminium for the bottom 2/3. I like the design, but there's no wireless charging, which I know it's not going to affect a lot of people, but it's something I'd like to see on my smartphone, as I do feel we're moving towards a wireless future where you could go to any location, put your phone down, and it will just start charging. The fingerprint sensor though is definitely a saving grace for me, as it just works so well. The main problem that I have with the overall design though is actually the fact that there is no headphone jack and no expandable storage. So no SD cards for storing all of those songs, and no headphone jack for, you know, headphones. I have since swapped to wireless headphones, which to be fair definitely have some solid advantages, but running on the train with dead headphones is never very fun, and while you definitely can use the adapter, it's still not ideal. Whether this is going to bother you, again, is going to depend on your individual use case and what you want to use, but personally I'd still much rather that they'd included the headphone jack, like you'll find on something like the S8 and then the OnePlus 5T. I think we probably should talk about performance though, because this is where this phone really shines, in the usability department and of course in the camera. So this uses the latest version of Android, as you'd expect for a Pixel phone, and you've got a few nifty things as well, like an always listening speaker that can identify songs, which is actually surprisingly accurate and does work offline. You've got a squeeze to activate the Google Assistant feature, which sounds great, but I don't really actually see myself using it that often, but maybe that's just because I use Google Home speakers. But it's all about just the way it feels, because from the moment I got this in my hand and started scrolling around, it's so difficult to describe just how fluid this phone feels. The long and short of it though is that between the Snapdragon 835 processor, the 4GB of RAM, and the software itself, everything I threw at this phone, it just handled it with ease, and it always felt super slick and super stable. Not sure exactly how it all works, but it really does. But I think the thing really that actually has impressed me the most about this phone is actually the camera, because the photos it takes are truly breathtaking. And the reason for this is because pretty much every photo it takes will be HDR. This is on by default. It does this so quickly that it just feels like you're taking a normal photo, and the results are so good as they're really striking the perfect balance between expanding the dynamic range but without looking sort of not very tasteful anymore. And that nicely leads us on to portrait mode, because you see this photo right here, this is probably the first photo I've ever taken on a phone that has really made me stop and sort of question what's possible on a smartphone camera. I'm not saying it can't be improved, because I'm sure we'll see better cameras come out next year, but I really think that this thing is going to do justice no matter where you take it. The Pixel 2 XL also now has a level of water resistance, which means that if someone chucks you in a swimming pool with your phone in your pocket, you should survive. But it's also got incredibly good battery life. Now, to be clear, I don't always use my phone that much, and I work from home, so if I'm not doing much, I'll finish the day with around about 60-55% battery life, but that's not really very impressive to anyone. What is impressive is the days that I go into London, I do a daily commute and I'm pretty much listening to Bluetooth headphones the entire day, and I've never had to worry about this phone dying, ever. I mean, to be clear, this isn't going to last you 2 days, but I think it would be a very rare occasion that this wouldn't actually last you the entire day. And if you did want to charge up the phone, then it supports the latest quick charge tech as well. So Google claim you get 7 hours and 15 minutes. Whether that's quite accurate, I'm not entirely convinced, but the point being that this is a very, very battery life friendly phone, which if is something it's going to affect you and you want a phone that has excellent battery life, then you've got to give it to the Pixel. It does a fantastic job. So to conclude then, the Pixel definitely isn't perfect. For one, it's very expensive. It forgoes things like a headphone jack, wireless charging, and of course that expandable storage. And while the screen is definitely improved, it's still not as good as something like an iPhone X or a Galaxy S8. On paper then, perhaps it's not the best choice. But it's not about what it is on paper, it's about what it actually is like to use. And for me and my lifestyle, the Pixel 2 XL is the best Android phone I've ever used. And as long as you can look past those flaws, I actually don't think you're going to be disappointed whatsoever. If you have enjoyed this video, let me know. Hit me up in the comment section down below and hit the like button if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe, as I say, for more videos just like this. And of course, for actually getting me this review.
My initial impression is I love the phone. It's a phone that is just as good, if not better, than the iPhone. I could easily see myself switching to a Pixel phone. With a price point of only $650, it would be very economically sound to do that. So let's talk about a few of the aspects of the Pixel 2 that I really enjoyed. The advantage that stands out the most over the iPhone is the battery life. I never had a situation where I felt like the battery was about to die, and that happens all the time with the iPhone. And I gotta say, of course, there was a learning curve, a little bit of a learning curve switching over to Android, but by the end of the week, I feel really comfortable with it. It's noticeably lighter than the iPhone. I like that. Here's one area where I think the iPhone definitely wins. The dongle for the Pixel is huge. It's ridiculous. Look at those two put side by side. If you're gonna have a dongle, make it as small as possible. Apple definitely wins there. Just like with the new iPhones, there's no headphone jack, which is the worst technological advancement in recent memory. Hands down, the camera on the Pixel 2 is better than what you see with an iPhone. Here's some examples of photos that I took while on a farm in Virginia. Just look at that clarity. Look at the hair on that goat. This one was taken with an iPhone. Same goat. The image is not as high quality as the one taken with the Pixel. Look at that. The Pixel's video quality also outstanding. Colors just pop. Here's some footage I took of the New York City skyline from an airplane. As you can see, when you zoom in, the zoom on the video camera, like most smartphone cameras, isn't that great. You lose a lot of resolution. But generally, I was a big fan of the video, so that's just a definite advantage. Even though I've been like an iPhone disciple for like 10 years, I feel like that's just been because it's been a force of habit and not really because I felt like iPhones were the best phones. And now that I'm comfortable with the Android operating system, I might be ready to make the switch.
What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back. Well, as some of you may know, I got an iPhone 10 about 10 days ago and I've been using this as my daily driver ever since. But before this, the last iPhone that I had was the iPhone 4S, so it's been a long time since I had an iOS device. So today I want to share with you my experience with the iPhone 10 after I've been an Android user for over 6 years. First of all, the build quality. So the phone feels just as good as a high-end Samsung device or LG device or anything like that. And I kind of like the size of this phone because you get a 5.8-inch screen but not a big phone, so it's very easy to use this holding it with one hand. Now, I wish there would be a plus version of this phone because personally I prefer bigger phones and I'd like something with a 6.1-6.2 screen. And since we are talking about the screen, well, in my opinion, the screen looks absolutely gorgeous and I'm having a lot of high-end devices from Samsung. And moving to the back of the phone for a quick second, and this only happens if you don't have a case on the phone, and I imagine that most people are going to use a case on this phone just because of how expensive it is to replace the back. So anyways, the cameras aren't flat with the glass. That means that you can't exactly lay this flat on the table because whenever you're trying to hide the phone kind of falls, and it is a bit annoying if you don't have a case on it. Moving on to one of the biggest features for the iPhone 10, and that's the Face ID. Well, at the beginning I was kind of skeptical about it and I didn't actually believe it worked, but after using this for about 10 days now I am in love with it and it works very well, but with a couple of exceptions. The exception has to do with whenever you are wearing sunglasses, but there is a very simple fix for it. You just have to turn off an option under settings and then it works great. And these days I don't even notice that I have the Face ID, so I basically just lift up the phone and unlock this, and it does work very well. And you can actually use it for other apps like PayPal, your banking, and so on. So the Face ID is pretty awesome, and I can only imagine how good my Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus will do that feature. Another thing I love about this phone, and basically iOS, is the AirDrop, because I also use an app, so sending pictures or videos from the iPhone to the Mac or from the laptop to the iPhone is done so easy. And this is something that I wish I would have on Android as well, because transferring files from an Android device to an Mac doesn't work as well as some of you may know. And going back to the Face ID for a quick second, I forgot about this feature. So if someone else picks up your phone, the phone will display whatever notifications there are. So it will show you that you have like a Twitter notification or message or whatever. But if the phone doesn't see your face, it's not going to show those notifications. Like, it's not going to display what the notifications are. As soon as the phone sees your face, those notifications actually show up. So you can see if you're like a message, you can actually read the message or whatever Twitter notification and so on. Another thing I like about the iPhone 10 and basically iOS is that Force Touch. That works so much better than what we've seen in Android. So you can basically interact with any notification, any app, or even with the keyboard. So if you are not on the keys or up, down, or whatever, you just Force Touch on the keyboard and do that. And that's not something that we see on Android. But leaving that aside, the keyboard on the iPhone actually sucks and it's so much slower to use than the keyboard that we get on Android. Because with Android we have the dual keyboard, we have Swift key and so on, and they're so much better than the keyboard that we get on the iPhone. And we're moving on to the cameras on this phone. I'm mostly going to talk about the front-facing camera. Well, first of all, the camera app sucks. So in order to change anything for the camera app, you actually have to go to like settings, to the phone settings, and then change stuff for the camera. And we don't even have a 16:9 camera mode, and I'm not sure why, because that's the one that I actually use quite a lot. So the camera is not the greatest out there. my Samsung phone, for example, if I just say choose the phone to take a picture. With the iPhone, well, you can't exactly do that. And just the fact that you have to go to settings, like the phone settings, and then look for camera, and then change the settings, it just feels so left behind. But leaving that aside, the camera on the iPhone has some very cool features that I haven't exactly seen for Android devices. Of course, we have the portrait mode on some Android devices as well, and well, I guess it works better on the Pixel when comparing it to the iPhone, because the iPhone doesn't detect the elements that work, but we have some other cool features in there, like the studio light and so on, that make some very cool looking pictures. Another thing I like about the iPhone X are the speakers, because we have dual speakers on this phone, and when comparing this to the Samsung phone should stay unlocked. Well, that's not the case with the iPhone X or basically any iPhone, and it's quite annoying to have to pick up the phone and unlock it every time you want to like change the music or anything like that. Even though I got very used to the gestures on the iPhone X, I still find Android being better for multitasking. So with the iPhone X, to go into multitasking, you basically swipe up and to the right. Now there is another way to swipe at the bottom of the screen for multitasking, switching between apps, but I find the multitasking on Android much faster, because you just press one button and you have all your apps that are running in the background. You can also use two apps on the same screen with Android, and that's not something that you see with the iPhone, but I'm not sure why, because the screen is big enough so you can actually do that, so I wish we can see that in the near future sometimes. Moving on to yet another thing I dislike the iPhone, and basically iOS. You cannot choose default apps, so if you want to use Chrome as your browser, you can. And you can use it now, but if you're opening a message and you get a link, you can press that link and then all of a sudden you have Safari opening instead of Chrome, the one that you're actually using. Of course, this is not going to be an issue for everyone, and mostly if you've been using Safari, then you have Chrome, but I imagine that a lot of people actually like using Chrome, and the ability of just selecting default apps should be available. And there is more that I don't like on the iPhone X and basically iOS. So first of all, we don't have a notification light, and we don't have the possibility of having a screen of always on, so the always on display you've seen for a lot of Android devices. So every time you want to check for a notification, basically you have to go and pick up the phone and have the screen or anything like that, so you can actually see those notifications on the screen. And since I'm back talking about the screen, well, these icons are the exact same icons that we had the first iPhone, and you can't actually move them wherever you want on the screen. So for example, if you want like Skype at the bottom here, you can't do it for some reason. We can have widgets, I mean we have those widgets to the left there if you swipe left from the home screen, but it just feels so left behind. So if you have like 500 apps installed on your iPhone and you don't really want to make folders, so basically you're gonna have like 100 pages and keep swiping to get to that particular app. It just feels so slow. And wait for it, there is more. This is the slowest charging phone I've ever had. I mean, I've had a lot of cheap Android phones that take like 4 hours to charge. Well, this is just as bad as those. I mean, sure, you can get a charger, like a fast charger for this phone, because the phone actually supports fast charging, but for that you need to spend another $100, and after you spend $1,000 for a phone, you know what I mean? So to conclude this video, the iPhone 10 is definitely the best phone that Apple has ever made. I mean, we have a great screen, we have awesome cameras, we have that Face ID that I absolutely love, but in the same time the phone feels so left behind for certain things, and I wish those would change, because I could see myself using an iPhone again. But like this I just can't, because I'm much slower at doing stuff on the iPhone than on the Samsung device. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, press that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.
Hey guys, EVP Man here. One of the greatest things about being a YouTube content creator reviewer is the fact that I get to experience so many different technologies, namely phones like the iPhone, the Pixel, also the Samsung Galaxy line phones. And the questions that I get from my friends and family, and even online, is which one provides the best experience? So in this video, I just wanted to share with you how does the iPhone navigation experience compared to a pure Google experience compared to a Samsung experience. Let's go ahead and check that out. Now there's no surprise that there's been a lot of buzz about the iPhone 10, and because there's been so many dramatic changes happening to it. Things that I say are, in many cases, firsts. Now, first meaning it's the first time it happens, but it's not truly the first time that it's happened in the phone industry, but it's the first time that it's happened to an iPhone. The design has been radically changed, the navigation has radically changed, the screen experience has dramatically changed, and they've also changed some things that give you access to the operating system like you never did before. So how does that compare to what's happening with phones that are either Google issued, like the Google Pixel 2, or the Samsung lines? And this would apply even to the LG V30 and Motorola and all the other brands that are out there. So in this video, we're going to look at navigation. I want to show you how do you multitask to experience the product in comparison to these other solutions, so that you can come to your own conclusion as to which one has the share, which is my preference. But again, that's a matter of taste. So let's change, and could be frustration for the iPhone, was the removal of the home button. Remove the home button, as you can see, and nor does the Samsung Galaxy Note 8. What they went for, as opposed to having a physical button, when those buttons were removed, is they went for soft buttons. So these are software navigation buttons that allow you to go home. So there's no home button here, but there is definitely a home button here. So let's show how does each one of these handle going back home from an existing application. So now how do you go home, given the fact that there's no home button and these two have home buttons? So with the iPhone, you just swipe up and it's gone. And with these two phones, now that I've gone home, how do I get back to the app that I was working with? Well, there's a couple options. You could tap this and open it up again, and I can do that with each one of these applications depending on where I have my back, right?